guys, it's Matt. I'm back up at the shop. I have got the new transfer case, old transfer case. The goal today, along with a bunch of stuff on the Humvee, is to set up the drivetrain to where the transfer case is at the same angle as the old transfer case, so I can bolt it all together, put everything on it out here, and then put it in the truck, and maybe by a wish and a prayer, it'll all be right. So let me show you what I'm doing to get that initial setup as close to the factory as possible. All right, so what I did with this one, the old one, is you can see it's on a jack, and I kind of talked about this in the last video. I got the transmission straight as it were in the truck. So the dowels that you see right there and there, the dowel holes, they're lined up. So the transmission's level, and I've jacked up the back to where all I want to know is the difference between the output shaft height to the ground and the front output shaft to the ground. Now, when I did the math, the difference between this one and this one is 4 1/8 inches. So the front output is 4 1/8 inches lower than the rear output. Now, what I'm going to do, because the new transmission is going to mount in, it's going to be straight, it's going to be fine. But what I'm going to do is try to mimic that 4 1/8 inch drop on the output of this transfer case. So that's why I have a block of wood under it, and it's at an angle. Now, what I've done is I've got the rear set up here at 8 5/8 inches to the center of that output, and then the front is 4.5. And so this transfer case is set up as it sits with 4 1/8 inches lower than the output, just like this one. So if you look at the drop, it's hard to see, but the output shaft's right there. If you look at this angle, should be the exact same angle. Now what I've done is I've added this piece, which this is the adapter, goes like that. I put it on and you'll see a bunch of lines on it. So I put it on, put a level on the bottom to kind of mimic that this is the transmission mount on a level ground. Double check my measurements, then I just draw lines from where the bolt holes are onto the actual transfer case. And I find what holes line up so I can start with the studs in those holes. So in theory, and I could be wrong about this, I don't think I am, but when I bolt this adapter to the transmission, and then I bolt that transfer case to this adapter using these lines, it should literally be dropped exactly the same as the factory side. So unfortunately, Atlas or Advanced Adapters did not send me studs for some reason. I guess when you pay this much for a transfer case, you're supposed to have your own, but I don't have the studs to put all this together. So I can't do that today. But I'm really confident and comfortable with the fact that when I do, it's all going to fit in the truck nice and smooth. The only thing I haven't measured for is the distance from the rear output to the front output, and the front output to the rear output on this one. That's going to be a harder measurement to do, but it'll give me a ballpark to whether I'll run into issues with stuff on the side over here. I know that the 4L80 is longer, obviously. That transmission goes from there to there. This one is longer because it's got that 4th gear in it. But this transfer case is so much more narrow with the adapter than that one is, that I still think it's going to be a tighter package under the truck when I get it like up against the fuel tank. When I've just, if you've ever been under a Humvee clearance, there's just not a lot of clearance. So I'm excited about this combo compared to that combo for every reason possible. But that's what I've started on today. Next thing I'm going to work on once I feel really comfortable with this is I'm going to go over to the Humvee and start buttoning up some wiring. And it'll be soon enough. We'll be sticking this thing in the truck. And then I got to plumb the fuel system, build a shifter, build a gauge cluster. I got a lot to do. So I'm going to get to it. Hey, everybody. I did not realize that those 2 clips you just saw were a whole different day. Like, I did the video and then I finished up and I just forgot the video. I'm still getting back used to doing these videos like this, but that I think was a kind of example of how I plan on setting up the Atlas so it goes in like the old one was in. After that, I was able to finish up a ton of wiring. So let me show you that real quick. And then we're gonna work on actually plumbing the fuel system because I ordered all of that. I've got all that in and it is almost ready. So it still looks a little bit like a mess, but I've got my wire run across that is ignition for the Holley EFI system. All of this is done and loomed. I'm just ready to put the air box in. I've loomed all of this. I've got the main power wire ready to be cut. I've got everything run to the battery that needs to be run to the battery. I just have not loomed it yet. So really everything, even though this still kind of looks like chaos, the wiring is ready to go. I still have to hook the electric fans back up, do some plumbing to the cooling system from the, I forget, the steam port or whatever into the water pump. So just some little stuff, but I got a ton done. And I heat wrapped, let me show you inside. I heat wrapped all the electrical connections for the EFI system, so I don't have to worry about that because they run really close to the exhaust manifold, and you know, it's gonna help out a lot. So now let's go in and let's look at how we're gonna connect to the fuel rails to make this thing really awesome. All right, so what I'm working with, this is the factory fuel rail, and right here behind these wires, you'll see this teat. And it is the factory fuel rail input. That's where fuel goes into, pressurizes this rail, goes over the top of the manifold, pressurizes the other rail. I'm going to do this in sections because I'm going to show you the parts. I don't have the part numbers. I'll try to put them in the description below. The first one is this wonderful device. And what this does is this literally slides over. It's a quick disconnect, slides over, clips in place. And this metal piece is extremely important and keeps this from popping off because they do make some of these that don't have a safety mechanism. And so this goes on, then this actually clips in the back of it. Well, I'm not gonna be able to show you one-handed, but I'll show you once it's on. This clips in the back, and then that collar goes around this part right here. And it keeps, where that clip back here keeps it from coming this way because it kind of self-holds itself, if that makes zero sense. So that all that's going to do is get me from this odd fuel injection or fuel rail fitting into a -6 3/8 fuel connection so I can continue hooking up my aftermarket fuel system into the factory GM stuff. So this part, now this is a $40 part, believe it or not. This is step number one. All right, so there's step number one installed. Let me get that out of the way. You can see that it slid right onto that rail. This clip went in the back. And this rail, I don't know, the teat I showed you earlier has a lip on it. And that metal piece pushes against that lip. And then it has a collar, a pressure collar right here. So it's impossible for that to come off. And then in order to get this piece off, you just need quick disconnect tools and it'll pop right off. But now I have a -6 3/8 AN fitting that I can connect to get to my next step. So let me get the next part and I'll show you what that is. Here's the Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator. This is going to regulate the fuel coming out of the fuel pump. It goes in here, out here, and then there's a return line here. So if it's not using the fuel or enough fuel, it just pushes the extra fuel out of the bottom. That goes back into the tank. I already have all that set up for a return system, so that's not an issue. And then I've got a gauge that will go right here where you have this bronze plug. That is right here. It's going to be a fuel pressure gauge that lets me keep track of where my fuel pressure is. I think the LS, factory LS, is at 45 pounds. I'm not 100% sure. I'll do that research, look into that, but it's all adjusted by this up here. You undo that lock nut, and then it's just a hex to move it up and down to add or remove pressure. This is a vacuum line. I don't think I'm going to have to hook that up. If not, it says in the instructions just to leave it open, which is fine with me. It says do not plug it. And then that's it. And so these connectors come with the kit. I'll undo all three of those because it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to use them. Maybe the N I'll be able to use, but you know, I wish it could sit, like I wish I could just put it right in there, but I've got too big of a gap and I don't want to use any kind of hose. So I'm thinking I might be able to get a 45-degree fitting to just mount it right on the rail like that. I need to go see about that. I bet I can. And then I'll just get it put right there, bring the fuel lines up. that might be the way to do it. I'll have to play with it a little bit. I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to mess around. Here's the plan. Whether I'm going to execute or not, I don't know, and I've got to order some parts. But I'm going to come out of that connector on the fuel rail at a 45, so kind of like that. It'll mount the fuel pressure regulator directly to the fuel rail. Then I can do that at a 45, pointing down towards the transmission. That one I'm trying to record and hold, I know. And then the one I've got with my hand down here at the bottom is straight currently, but I can do it at a 45 because it has to kind of pull away. It has to come down this way. And so I think if I do that, I can have this connected directly to the fuel pressure regulator. Then the two lines coming in will both be angled down towards the top of the transmission, which is where they are. This is actually them now. I'll have to cut them and adjust them. But I think that's going to be my best bet, because if I have it mounted directly to this, I don't have to mount it somewhere back here. It'll tuck in nice. I think it's going to work out well, honestly. Yeah. So that I have to order a bunch of connectors now after I just ordered a bunch of these, but yeah, it's going to be good because the kit comes with a bunch of connectors. I don't have them right now. This is the next piece. I got to go into the truck, and we've got this huge dash 10 to AN6 3/8 line filter that is going to go in line with the fuel system to make sure we're filtering out particulates from our amazing fuel tank. And then so I'm about to go into the truck. I'll take you under there and show you that, or where I plan on putting this. That thing it's going to take a bunch of parts to get that the way I want it. But yeah, that's good. I'm glad I came up here tonight, and that way I can get them ordered. Hopefully have them here in 2 days, and then have the fuel system buttoned up by the end of the week. We'll see. Welcome to Underneath the Humvee. I did get the fuel pump wire done. So the fuel pump is wired to the Holley system, which I'm super excited about. Y'all remember the craziness that went on to get this thing retrofitted to the Holley retrofit EFI, whatever. And then, oh yeah, remember the exhaust? I tried to put the cat on it to get a little quieter. Not going to be so quiet after this. So this is the fuel filter, and I made quick disconnects right here. I did a male-to-a-male union, and the red tape is the feed line. I also designated it with the blue, anodized blue connector, just so I could know which one was the feeding line, because as you can see, you have 3 black rubber hoses come out. You don't know which one's which. So what my plan is to take out the feeder line and just put this in its place. And hopefully that works. Now, how I'm going to mount it will probably be to this up here with a, not like that, with a insulated strap, kind of like that thing right there, just really big. One of those stainless steel, just big enough to go around this thing. I don't think just having it hang here is a good idea. I might. I mean, once it's full of gas, it'll weigh a good bit, so I don't necessarily want to do this. This is the breather line here, so that's no big deal. I guess I'm going to have to do it to where it like mounts right there, maybe. I need to look at this. The flow is that way, mount it right there, and then just go up and hook up. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with it. I don't know if I like that very much, but there's really nowhere else to put it, because yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, I know that wouldn't mess with anything. It's way out of the way of anything and everything. Yeah, I guess that's where I'll do it. I'll hook it up there. Wow. Drive shafts. I got to go right through there. Transfer case hopefully fits right here. Oh man, I got to bring the new cross member. I've got the 4-speed cross member. Oh, I got to do the transmission fluid too. I got to fill the cooler with the transmission fluid. I got a lot to do, but I'll get it done. I'll knock it out. All right, I think that's it. for tonight. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can look at, because I'll try to order parts and get it all knocked out here. Man, I love these things. Look at that suspension. Nothing has meaner suspension. You can fit a 5-gallon bucket with days of room. Oh, all right.